Evening, everybody. It's 6:03 on this sunny fall afternoon here in Boston. And today's market was like New England weather. If you didn't like what you saw, all you had to do is give it a few minutes and it changed. This was, without question, one of the biggest yo yo days that I have seen in a really long time. Prior to the open, we had claims and Philly Fed. Claims came in a little hot. Philly Fed came in a little cold. So futures, which were slightly lower, actually opened about unchanged. We went up. We came back down. At 10 o'clock, we had existing home sales, which were soft, as you might expect, between interest rates, affordability, and the fact that a lot of people in existing homes don't want to sell them because they have no desire to go from a 3% mortgage to an 8% mortgage. And so we were up a little further, then we turned down a bit more than that. And then Powell spoke at I believe it was the New York Economics Club, and his speech was kind of mixed. Um, but what turned the market from up on the beginning of his speech to down was the Q&A period, during which he sounded particularly hawkish. I've listened to a couple of the people that I actually respect, including Jim Grant from the Grant Interest Rate Observer, who was on after 4 o'clock. Um, he takes issue with the fact that Powell says that they're being accommodative when everything that he says looks like they're being restrictive. And so his question is, if this is restrictive and the 10-year traded over 5 this afternoon, you know, what's restrictive really going to look like? And I can't argue that point with him. Okay, so Dow down 250, or 0.75%. Um, Nasdaq down 128, or almost 1%. S&P down 3660, or 8.86. Biggest loser again today was the Russell, down 2611, or 1.5%. Transports down about 148, or almost exactly 1%, and the VIX was higher. What was interesting today to me was the fact that new highs, new lows continue to widen out. Today's numbers were 10 to 1 on new lows versus new highs. And that wasn't just on the NYSE, that was also on the NASDAQ. Advanced declines on the NYSE were 5 to 1 to the downside, and on the NASDAQ were 3.5 to 1 to the downside. Volume was unchanged at 4.6 billion. Not a lot to talk about, although there are a bunch of stocks that have moved substantially lower after the close. We had Netflix, which, if you even if you lived under a rock, you'd know by now was up over $56. 402.50 up 56.31, or 16.27% on yesterday's earnings, projections, and the metrics of those actual earnings. And Tesla was down 25, actually 217.79, down 24.89, or 10%. FCX, one of my favorites, because I'm still so bullish long term on the copper, as well as in the short term, I've been very bullish the gold. Uh, FCX actually beat both top and bottom line. Their gold mining produced almost 20% more gold this year than last year, about unchanged on copper and a little bit lighter on iron ore. But the stock was 35.22, and that was down 39 cents or just 1%. But after the close, Enphase Energy, ENPH, um, they are an EV charging station company building it out. Um, they got downgraded by one firm, and it was only from market outperform to market perform, and the stock took it on the chin hard. 99.33 is the last. That's down 24.51 or 20%. That's a chunk for that kind of an announcement. Um, Solar Edge, SEDG, European solar primarily, it just announced when they were going to report, which is November 1st, but also gave pretty substantially lowered guidance. And if you think Enphase was bad, or Tesla, Solar Edge on excess inventories, markdowns, and delays in installations is currently trading 90.75, and that is down $30.03 or 24.9%. So that's a tough one. Okay, they're just reopening the futures. The gold was higher by 12.20. Actually, it looked like it was. It looked like the settlement was about $8 lower than it should have been, but it's immediately making up for it now. As you can see, um, the close actually, you can't see it now, but the close actually was in this neighborhood of 1980.50, which was up 12.20, but it immediately opened and went as high as 1990.20. And the last is 1985.80. That's up $5.30. So let's see what else happened today. The bonds were down hard. Oil was higher. It's higher again tonight. The grains were very strong today. The corn and the wheat up 13 and 13 and three quarters respectively. The soybeans, which have been up for a couple of days, had a little bit lighter day, up only $4.50 a bushel, 4.5 cents a bushel. Um, Silver was down a little today. It's up 15 cents right now. The copper is slightly lower. Uh, Stock futures are just minimally lower. The dollar index was down 30 cents, has not reopened yet. Bitcoin was up 580, has not yet reopened. And I'm beginning to see a little bit more impressive action in Ethereum. So I might have to take a look at ETHE again. The bonds were down 1 and 14/32. For those of you who still remember how to do fractions, that's about a point and 7/16, and they are down one more 16th tonight. So there you go. There's nothing special tomorrow morning as far as economic news, but our senile president is going to speak, I guess, tonight about both wars. And I don't expect him to be terribly impressive because he certainly wasn't yesterday or today. All right, folks, I'll be back first thing in the morning. Have a good one.